James, I've asked folks who cover the NFL kind of a similar question. It's weird, my emotions when I think about this Super Bowl, because I look at the Eagles as a team, I'm like, I think they should win the Super Bowl. And then I keep reminding myself, yeah, but they're taking on Patrick Mahomes. How do you kind of caddy this particular game?
Yeah, I would say Philly has the advantage in every single aspect of this game outside of the two most important ones, which is the head coach and the quarterback. If you look at it from every other angle, this is the most talented roster in football. I don't know if it's particularly close, right? I mean, you got an all-pro right tackle, all-pro left tackle, Pro Bowl center, Pro Bowl left guard. You have the assistant coach of the year up as a nominee in Fangio. You have two guys up for rookie of the year. Your running backs up for MVP and offensive player of the year. I mean, they're just absolutely loaded in every aspect. They're a run-first team with two number one wide receivers. Like, how often do you say that, right? Like, they have 2 1s, and they're a run-heavy offense. And so I do think, though, you just don't pick against Patrick Mahomes. You just don't pick against Andy Reid in Kansas City. I've covered it enough. I've been to all of the Super Bowls. So I think Philly is just unbelievably loaded. They've had a great season. I think it's going to come down to Steve Spagnuolo is going to make Jalen Hurts make some plays. And I think KC is going to be fine if they go, we'll make Jalen beat us. And if he does, that's how we lose this game. But I don't bet against Patrick. I don't bet against Andy. I think we've all learned that lesson. But if you really look at the nuts and bolts of it, Philly should win. But those two are just so good.
James, it just hit me as I'm talking to you. I should have maybe even led with this. Ohio State wins, and you're a Philly guy, right? So this could be an amazing month for you.
Yeah, I am Philly born and raised. I mean, I would say this, covering the league, for the last 12, 15 years, whatever it's been, my fandom has waned, I would say. I'm a little bit further removed from wearing that. You guys remember that hutch that you used to get with, like, the helmet and the jersey and the shoulder pad? I did have a Randall Cunningham, one of those. I did love Mike Quick and Reggie White, but, it's changed a little bit. This is more for all my boys back home. So my sister survives teaching on Monday and doesn't take this out on the kids. I mean, this is for the family. This is for everybody that I hope really comes away with this win. And I do think, I know people find Eagles fans repulsive in some capacity, and they could be a bit much. But being down here in New Orleans, there is a bit of a vibe of can they please just beat the Chiefs? You know what I mean? We had that in the AFC Championship game with the Bills, and now there was a different perception, obviously, between Buffalo and Philly. But I do think there's a feel down here of, can somebody beat the Chiefs, please? And I was surprised by that, honestly.
Am I making this up? Did your dad cover the Eagles, or he was a sports writer, right?
He was a broadcaster at Philly. He covered Buddy Ryan, and he covered Andy Reid. I mean, hey, man, he goes all the way back to Bama. He used to do a TV show with Bear Bryant back in the 70s together. He's been around. And so, yeah, I mean, he covered the Eagles for a long time. I mean, he knows Andy. He's been around, and that's been an interesting aspect of all this time I've spent with Andy Reid in Kansas City, because every time, I see him after a press conference, he asks, how's your dad doing? So it's just been a full circle moment. And I think that's kind of the wild part of Andy Reid. I've covered a borderline Hall of Fame career for a coach in Kansas City, and my dad covered a remarkable career that he had in Philadelphia, where he's still the winningest coach in Eagles history by a long shot. And what he's done, with 10-plus years at 2 organizations, is unbelievable.
How about the, I don't want to say reemergence, but just the Saquon Barkley story arc, right? What we thought of him before at the Giants, and obviously we knew he was great, but now continuing that and being, if not the reason, a major reason in Philadelphia being back in the Super Bowl.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I do go all the way back to when he was coming out of Penn State. And, I just try to accumulate. I'm not going to sit here and study film and lie to people, but I am going to talk to everybody in the league. And I don't know anybody who didn't have him as, teams use different grading systems, whether it's a star, whether it's a blue chip, whether it's whatever. There's certain indicators for a kid that check every single box. And I don't know a team that didn't have that for Saquon when he came out. There were a number of evaluators and general managers I talked to that said he's the best prospect I've ever seen, regardless of position. And I think what we saw was a guy that was in an offense, in a situation that obviously, this is a great team sport. You got to rely on a lot of people. And now you put him behind that offensive line I talked to you guys about, and he's unbelievable. What I think makes him even more special, though, is these numbers, guys, could be even greater this year. Because I know the running back coach really well. I've had conversations with Joel Singleton, and he's told me there's times where Kenny Gainwell is in the game and Saquon's on the sideline. He's saying, hey, keep Kenny in. He's rolling right now. Keep him in. Like, he's that unselfish as a player, which makes me go, I'm curious what these stats could have been.
James, do you think Kelsey's going to go for a couple more years? What do you think about his future?
I mean, it's been tough for him. I mean, really, I would say, like it's not like tough as in like, oh, it's a struggle. My life is Travis Kelce. But, like, he has lost a step. I mean, I know, like, the Swifties will attack you if you say it, but there isn't a coach on that staff that will lie to your face if you know him well enough and tell you he doesn't move anywhere near what he used to move. He's found different ways to get open. He's found ways to kind of get open early. He still has an unbelievable football IQ, feel for space, those things. But the way he practices, which is 100 miles an hour, the way he tries to approach the game, it's getting harder. It definitely is. Does it mean he still has the ability to have these games where he breaks out? We saw him kind of have an up and down Travis Kelce postseason, which isn't what you usually see. But, in the AFC Championship game, he has 2 catches for, I think, 19 yards or something. But he's like the lead blocker on Mahomes' touchdown run. I mean, he still finds ways to be just so impactful in a variety of ways. He has so much waiting for him on the other side that I think that is the part that everybody's kind of curious about. Does he do the three-peat? Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. If your show gets fined by Pat Riley, I'm sorry for me saying it. But, if that's the way he goes out, I think it'd be pretty fitting. But he has so much on the horizon away from football that's there. There's some times where guys go, I don't know if that's going to be there year after year after year, right? But he loves playing. He still has this crazy passion for the game. I talked to him about it after the AFC Championship game. I wouldn't be surprised if either scenario ended up happening, in all honesty.
James, last thing for you. I guess I'm getting old. Well, I know I'm getting old. There's no guessing to it. And when I watch Media Day and the kind of questions that each year people try to be Johnny Topper and top their questions, I think it's a little too much. The trolling and the types of questions and maybe the amount of credentials they give to this thing. As a reporter trying to do a job and understanding there's going to be some comedy element to it, what do you think of it all?
Yeah, I mean, the players go into Monday night specifically knowing that it's entertainment value, right? I mean, they sell tickets, for crying out loud. Like, you would never sell tickets to a press conference. You never, this is actually something the league is promoting as just almost like fun and games. I do think the players go into that situation with the right mindset. What I do think happens is, and this is where I do feel for the players, I not as much for myself, but I appreciate the shout out, David. It is hard to work this week. But, you eventually answer the same question so many times. Some of these guys get caught and, they want to say something different, and they want to change it up a little bit. And then all of a sudden, they got. Like, that happens on Radio Row a lot. Like, there's people looking to get you if he's got you questions. I think it happened to Josh Jacobs, honestly, the way everybody turned it around on Radio Row yesterday about what he was talking about with the Chiefers. So it's a tough situation. I think the shame of it is then players kind of cocoon and end up going, the boring route or the cliche route because they're scared of not saying the right thing. I think that's where relationships matter, and being able to get these guys by themselves, which is so hard this week, but I've had the opportunity to do it, over the years. And you got to relish in those opportunities. But the credentialing and then what ends up happening, the league is always going to go for bigger and better and as much money as they can make. And so they're always going to head in that direction. It's just, up to all of us, I guess, diehard journos and the people that have been doing it for a while to try to keep the core of it as transparent for everybody that's reading or watching.
James, I lied to you. I do have one last one for you. Myles Garrett, we love him here, obviously. He's a Hall of Famer in the making. What do you think is going to happen with him? Do you think they actually do end up trading him? Do you have empathy for the Browns? Do you understand Myles' point of view?
They're in a bad spot, the Browns, certainly. I do think they end up trading him. I actually think that ends up happening. And I think there's a few things why. And you look at how this played out. Oftentimes you don't see a public statement like this. Ironically, we saw 2 of them this week with him and Cooper Kupp, a little bit different. But when that happens, there's already been enough dialogue, right, and enough conversation between the two sides that Myles felt like he had to put a statement out, right? Like, if it was amicable to the point to where, they're going to tell him, but we're not trading you, okay, I understand. No, he's going to keep pushing. What I find interesting is I had an executive tell me this week, which I found really kind of something I hadn't thought of. These NFL players are seeing what these NBA guys are able to do. And they're starting to see how the NBA players can use their muscle and use their power to try to make some things happen in their favor. And I think some people in the league believe that certain players are going to start doing that. And maybe that's an example of what we're seeing with Myles. But I do think he ends up, I think he ends up getting traded because I also think what he did with this statement is, even though Andrew Berry, their general manager, doesn't want to trade him, now he does have the ability of all 31 teams to call him, and he'll know exactly what the market is, and he'll know exactly what the value is, and he'll know how many people's, pursuits of him are real, and that he can pin those against and change this organization. The problem is, financially, they're actually in a better spot if they trade him after the draft. But what good is that when you're trying to flip this? Because then the picks you're getting and acquiring are coming in next year's draft, which maybe hurts you in a little bit. But they don't have a quarterback. They have an aging roster. They have a nightmare of a salary cap. And I think they were fooled by that playoff run based on a defense when defenses don't consistently stay at the top of the league. And so Myles is looking for a place to win, and he's making it be known. And I think by doing that, he does allow Andrew Berry to see exactly what the market is.
James, I appreciate this time, man. Thanks so much. Let's talk to you soon, all right?
No problem, guys. Take care.
See ya.